Hello everyone, how you doing? RggV here, and we are back with another video. This time around, we're gonna do something a bit different on the channel. Instead of just having the regular lives, we actually gonna have more of an informative video today, and it's gonna be against a playstyle that I know most of you don't enjoy. I'm gonna go over, or we're gonna go over, since I haven't guest with me. None other than the stall expert, High Voltage. Say hi to everyone, man.
Hello guys, I'm High Voltage. I like using stall, but today we're gonna teach you how to beat it, basically.
Yeah, that's gonna be the case today. I'm not great against stall, probably because the teams I build are not the greatest against it as well. But this guy has pushed the stall meta since, well, I've only been here since Gen 8. How long have you been pushing stall meta, High Voltage?
I mean, yeah, I've been playing since Gen 8 as well, like taking it competitively at least. And I've hit top ladder, top 1 with different stall teams multiple times, both in Generation 8 and 9. And right now I think it's a bit overlooked. People underrate stall's potential, mainly because of its nerfs, right, that it received in this generation, but it also really received a couple of buffs that people don't really acknowledge. So in this video, we're going to be covering the most common stall teams we have right now and how you can beat them. Because even though I love stall, I love using it and having success with it, and it taught me a lot about the game. I think we all want a fair and balanced metagame where, you know, every playstyle can beat every playstyle. And so you always have a chance and there's no matchup fishing. And so we're going to teach you on how to upgrade your teams so that they can beat stall, you know, and how you can play accurately against stall.
Yeah, for sure, everyone. Just as High said, I'm gonna call you Voltage. Yes, as Voltage said,
Voltage is cooler.
That's what we're gonna be doing here. It's gonna give you some tips on how to deal against stall, and of course you're gonna be able to think how a stall player usually thinks, especially by the man himself. So as he said, he's made multiple and most of the prominent stall teams that are around right now. So of course he knows the weaknesses of his teams.
Okay, so let's look at some common stall teams before. I don't know if I should include my older teams, but I'll give them a shot as well. Okay, so I'm gonna pass you a Poke Paste.
Okay, sure.
This one is kind of outdated a little bit. You can open it. It's this Golden Go hazard stack with King Gambit, right? Yeah. Now there are some trends that can beat this style. It's not as good as the other ones we'll be covering. Most notably, this Blissey is on Terra Water, so it can lose the Walking Wake, among other stuff. Next, we'll move on to this more recent style. This is actually the style I had the most success with. Let me just pass you the Poke Paste.
Is it the Talonflame one?
Yeah, the Talonflame one.
Yeah, I think that's the most famous at the moment.
I made this in collaboration with Julius Final. He actually did most of the work. I just changed a little bit some things after a few Pokemon got banned and updated the team. Next, one of the most common stalls right now is also Super G-Money Stinglu stall. This is actually a sample team right now. So a lot of people are also using it because of that. Actually, this is a little bit of a different version. The original version has Calm Mind, Flamethrower, Blissey. This is just some changes I made, but it's basically the same team.
I think you sent me the Talonflame again.
Oops. Let me find it here. Where is it? Okay, here it is. Okay, try now. Yeah, I think this is the right version.
Yeah. See.
I mean, this version is a little bit different. Here we have Grass Knot Blissey, and the original version has Calm Mind Flamethrower, but that's basically the only difference. And then to finish things off, we have my newest Cyclizar Regenerator stall. Yeah, so these are basically some of the most common teams you'll face. They're actually pretty similar. And because they are really similar, you can also find Pokemon that beat all of them, right? Because you can see most of them have an Olomomola, Clodsire, Blissey, so it's mostly these Pokemon that you have to worry about. But before we go on talking about how you can beat Stall, let's worry first about how not to lose to Stall. And you may ask yourself, well, what's the difference? The difference is that you can tie. And for people that have played in Generation 8, they are kind of used to this concept because Generation 8 is by far the generation where ties are the most common. I don't have any data to back this up, but I think most people would agree with me because there's double Regenerator every time and ties are pretty common. So how can you defend yourself against opposing style? Look for a tie. Well, in this generation, it's a little bit harder for many reasons. First of all, we don't have as many Regenerator Pokemon, so forming double Regenerator cores is a little bit different. It's a little bit harder too. And for those of you who don't know what double Regenerator cores do, they basically make you immune to stall in a certain way because you can switch between them forever and the game is a tie. They can never break. They can never break through.
Yeah.
So there are only 4 Regenerator Pokemon in OU. You have Among Us, Slowking, Toxapex, and Cyclizar, and we'll go over them. First of all, I want to mention that I'm not sure if Cyclizar is staying OU. It might fall in next tier updates. And of course, you can always still run Cyclizar. It's still a pretty popular Pokemon, but it's mostly run on Stall itself. So at that point, we would rather include something like Alomomola on this little group of Regenerators. So the most common Regenerator pairs you can actually find are Among Us plus Slowking or Slowking plus Toxapex. Since Toxapex plus Among Us isn't really a solid core, since they are both poison types, they kind of cover the same things. It's not really common. So if you run Slowking plus Among Us or Slowking plus Toxapex, you should have at least a safety net that will grant you a tie against Stall, although it's not really perfect this generation for a few reasons. First of all, they have to run heavy-duty boots, otherwise you're going to lose to hazards, and trust me, Stall will, in the long term, get up all hazards against you. There's not much you can do. You can prevent them short-term, but long-term, you will need heavy-duty boots. And there are also some Stalls that run knockoff on their Pokemon to remove boots, so there's that problem too. It's not as easy to do as it was in Generation 8. Another problem that these Regenerator cores have is that now Stall Pokemon run Infestation and Whirlpool a lot more. And that's another tactic they can use to break double Regenerator, because even if you can switch forever, with Infestation Toxapex or Whirlpool Alomomola, you are forced to stay in and spend PP, and that can actually mean you can lose with double Regenerator. So this is not an option I would recommend for most people in this generation, and I just wanted to highlight that because it's completely viable and a good safety net in Generation 8. So now I think we can move on to the next section, which is the anti-hazard section.
Yeah.
And here you
also I want to add that Slowking, other than being a safety Regenerators net, it does add the future sight support, which can be, I'm guessing, depending on the other breakers that the team has, can be annoying for Stall, right?
Yeah, it always is. And it's actually one of the best teams you can use against Stall. It's Slowking Balance, and we'll talk about it later. But of course, Slowking also works as a safety net as well. Yeah. And, talking again about that Infestation Whirlpool problems, if Slowking gets trapped, it can also use Chilly Reception, so it's even better than the other Regenerator options. Yeah. So moving on to the anti-hazard options, we have a few here, and I would say some are better than others, but all of them are flawed in some way. And I will highlight that the objective of this anti-hazard Pokemon is not necessarily to prevent hazards forever, but to prevent hazards so that in the short term, so that your other breakers can actually beat Stall. And so let's start with Hatterene, which I consider to be the best anti-hazard option against Stall, because the main problems of Hatterene are actually against more offensive teams with Glimora or any other Spiker or Stealth Rocker that can threaten it. But on Stall, you only find Clodsire, Blissey, and Tinglu, and Hatterene is capable of preventing Stealth Rock and Spikes forever, basically, against Stall. Now, Blissey will be able to seismic toss it down, even if it has Psyshock, because when you seismic toss it, it needs to use draining keys to recover HP, and eventually it will run out. So long term, as I said before, it will not work. But it can prevent hazards for so long, and you can even use Terra Flying to guarantee that Ting Lu is never beating you, or that Cloudzyre is never even posing any threat. Additionally, you can run Rest, but obviously Rest is not very optimal on certain teams. It's mostly common on Stall, like my newest team. So you may not be able to fit Rest, although Rest is very good against, for example, Poison Jab Cloudzyre, which completely beats Hatterene, even if it chooses to Terra Flying. So yeah, I like this Rest option. It will give you a better safety net against Stall. But yeah, Hatterene is not perfect, and it will lose eventually. Next up, we have Corvic Knight, and Corvic Knight is good because Goldengo isn't that common on Stall. The first team I sent you has a Goldengo, but that team isn't as common anymore. Most teams on Stall itself don't have a Corvic Knight either. So you can do what was commonly done in Gen 8, which is you get a procs and they are able to defog because they have pressure, but you also go to your own Corvic Knight to pressure the defog itself, right? And that doesn't happen this generation because Corvic Knight is not as common on Stall teams as it was before. Now, there are other flaws with Corvic Knight. First of all, you're kind of forced to run leftovers, otherwise Blissey can seismic toss it down this generation, because Roost only has 8 PP. In Generation 8, because Roost had 16 PP, you could absorb all seismic tosses, and Blissey will never get a procs. But this generation, you only have 8 Roost PP, and Blissey also runs Shadow Ball, so and even Flamethrower sometimes. So you're kind of forced to run leftovers. Now, even Corvic Knight has its flaws, as I said, because, for example, Defog will be able to remove one hazard, but if you have Cloudzyre plus Blissey, well, they are going to be able to get up either Spike or Stealth Rock, one of the two, right? Because it's just too much PP and you actually beat the pressure Defogger. Another problem Corvic Knight has is if, for example, it wants to switch into Whirlpool, Alomomola, or Infestation Toxapex to absorb the hit. If you are using the Talonflame team, Corvic Knight is either forced to spend default PP or click an attacking move, which means it either gets burnt or spends default PP, basically. Obviously, it can Roost too, but Roost has 8 PP, so you'll lose it eventually. And this can be a method to break through Corvic Knight. Because if Corvic Knight gets burned, Blissey can actually seismic toss it down. As I said before, it needs leftovers recovery, and if it doesn't have it, Blissey has enough PP to beat it. So there are a few problems with Corvic Knight still. It will not keep hazards off the field forever. Moving on to Great Tusk. Here on this version, I have max defense, max HP, Terra Steel, and this is the best version you can have against Stall for a couple of reasons. Max HP is important because you need to be able to take Blissey's seismic toss forever with leftovers. Max defense is important because if you Terra Steel to avoid Cloudzyre's Toxic, you will be weak to Earthquake, but even with max defense, that will not do a lot of damage, so you'll actually beat it. Unfortunately, Great Tusk also has a couple of problems. First of all, Stall sometimes has a Terra Ghost Alomomola or other Terra Ghost Pokemon to beat it, so it cannot spin. And it also obviously has Talonflame, which can burn it, and it will mean it cannot spin forever. Another popular option you can run on Tusk to beat Stall is Terra Fire Rapid Spin, so you cannot get burnt by Talonflame and you basically wall Pokemon forever. Of course, if you run Terra Fire, you can get poisoned by Cloudzyre, so no set is perfect, and Great Tusk will actually lose eventually, but it can work short term to prevent hazards from overwhelming your team. And finally, we have Cyclizar, which I consider to be probably the best option, since it can threaten most Pokemon. It can switch into Blissey and Cloudzyre kind of consistently, although it doesn't really appreciate being toxic by Cloudzyre, and it doesn't really take Earthquake that well. It will at least be able to spin versus a lot of Pokemon, and I think that's probably the best hazard removal option you have against Stall right now. Not to mention, it's actually pretty threatening with knockoff because Stall needs the boost, and you're also always forced to go to a specific Pokemon. Nevertheless, things like Terraghost Alomomola will actually be able to wall it, and it cannot spin. Although, if you get knocked and you play with Hazards up, you may be able to threaten it with Draco Media. But as I've said before, none of these options are perfect, and your objective should not be to keep Hazards off forever, but to keep Hazards off in the short term so that your teammates can actually break through Stall. Okay, and let's cover what those teammates are. Here I have some individual breakers that are really, really strong against Stall. Some of these are actually kind of matchup fishy, but they are all kind of consistent in some way. First of all, we'll start with Brillo. This set is actually very threatening to Stall because water types are very, very common. You have Alomomola, you have Dondozo, you have Toxapex, which isn't necessarily weak to grass, right? But you have so many Pokemon that are weak to grass on Stall. And simply by putting Rock Tomb on your move pool, you are able to threaten Talonflame, Skeledirge, and Volcarona, which are all a very common Stall Pokemon that just can switch in when you add this move. And this set is even more threatening because Close Combat hits Corviknight, although Mach Punch is more common. And Sport also allows you to get many free turns. Next up we have Garganacl, and this is, I would say, kind of a matchup fish, but it's still really consistent even outside of the Stall matchup. It can sweep a lot of teams. And this is basically an auto win against most Stall teams. The only Stall team I sent you that doesn't lose to this is the first one, because you have Terraghost Alomomola plus U-turn Corviknight, and even then it's going to put a lot of work. Basically, this set has, in theory, 5 moves. You have Curse, Block, Salt, Cure, and Recover, but because you can use Curse both to set up and to apply the Ghost type effect, you have literally 5 moves on this set, which is really overpowered. And there's basically nothing most Stalls can do about this. You just block the Regenerator, and you beat them with Salt Cure and Curse because they can switch out. And Salt Cure plus Curse is basically 25 plus 33% damage each turn, so you can't really out heal it. It's a lot of damage. Next up, we have Life Orb Actress. This is more of a niche mon. It's the only mon here that isn't OU, but it's so effective at beating Stall that I had to include it. There's very little Stall can do against this. The best option is probably to get up Toxic Spikes if you have them, or have something like Terra Fairy Dondozo. Mold Breaker obviously makes you ignore Unaware, so you can break through Dondozo, Skeledirge, and obviously Clodsire. And it's also helpful against other things, like I'm pretty sure Talonflame's Flame Body. I'm not sure. I think the move ignores Flame Body, although I'm not sure about that one. And Terra Blast Electric allows you to beat Dondozo, beat Alomomola, beat Talonflame. It's really helpful.
Yep.
Not to mention Terra Blast doesn't even make contact with Talonflame.
Yep.
And I've seen some variation within this set. Sometimes they run Double Dance without Outrage. They run both Swords Dance and Dragon Dance because Swords Dance is better against the bulkier matchups and Dragon Dance is better against the more offensive matchups. But yeah, really consistent mon against Stall, and kind of a little bit matchup fishy because it doesn't really do much against offensive teams unless it's behind screens.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Psyshock Goldengo. This is actually one of the rarest Pokemon to face you have here, because Psyshock is kind of a trend that I occasionally see, although it's really effective against Stall. Even against Pokemon like Tinglu, if you Terra Flying, you just spam Shadow, you get to +6 and spam Shadow Ball forever. They can't do anything, they will lose eventually. And Psyshock obviously allows you to hit Blissey and Clodsire. Clodsire sometimes runs Terra Psychic for Psyshock, but Shadow Ball will be able to hit it super effectively if they choose to do that. Although you will get walled by Terra Dark versions. That's the only problem with this set. It's really interesting, and I really think it's good at beating Stall. Next up, we have a mon that takes some more prediction to use against Stall, but it's really good when you know what you're doing. That is Thunder Punch Banded Meowscarada. First of all, it's kind of easy to fit Thunder Punch. You don't have to make many changes on your team, because as a fourth move, Abandon Masquerade either runs low kick for King Gambit or, I don't know, spikes or tricks, so it's not really
Sucker
hard
Punch?
to fit. Yeah, Sucker Punch too, although Sucker Punch on Choice Band is kind of weird because you can stay locked into it. So yeah, Thunder Punch allows you to beat Terra Flying Alomomola, or Terra Flying Hatterene, which are the most common Masquerade answers on style, even Talonflame too. So it's a really consistent option. Volcarona obviously doesn't like switching into you because you can knock its boots, and obviously you can get burnt, but if you know how to pilot this mon well, you should have an easy time against Stall.
What do you think of mixed Sword Stance Garchomp as breaker?
It's really strong, but it will be walled by a couple of things. First of all, Terra Fairy Toxapex will be able to get a Toxic off, even if it's at +2. Dondozo will kind of be able to trade itself with it. You know, it will put in work against Tal, but it will never sweep. Okay. You know what I mean. Yeah. Also, I've faced some chomps that were like Substitute, SD, Earthquake, Firefang, and they just ended up kind of getting walled by Talonflame. So yeah, I think Draco Meteor is kind of mandatory if you want to use it to break Stall. And if we look at our teams, yeah, nothing really likes switching into Garchomp that much without using Terra. Alomomola and Dondozo don't like switching into Draco Meteor, Pex, Clodsire, and Blissey lose to Earthquake. Tinglu doesn't enjoy Earthquake either. Talonflame doesn't enjoy Draco Meteor. So yeah, I think it's a good mon against Stall, but it doesn't have the longevity, you know, because it will kill itself with Life Orb, and you can switch, you can regen Stall it, you know, switch around Pex and the Alomomola with a little bit of prediction, but it will always put in some work against it, especially if you're running Swords Dance mix, like you said.
Yeah, it'll probably force a Terra, right?
Yeah, generally, if you want to be safe against it, you kind of have to terrestrialize Pex or terrestrialize Dondozo if you are Terra Fairy. So yeah, it's pretty good at forcing Terra without spending your own Terra. There's also a way you can use to beat Stall. One of the Pokemon that actually does that a lot of the time is Choice Band Excalibur, because on many teams that don't have a Dragon Resist, it forces the Terra on Toxapex, and then you can exploit that as a weakness.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some good options against Stall. But now we will look about playstyles and cores that are really solid against Stall, and now that we've covered the individual breakers. But before that, I want to cover the ones that are bad against Stall, and what minor changes you can do to your teams if you want to still use them and be able to beat Stall. Let's start with Psy Spam. Psy Spam is a kind of hyper-offensive team, and it kind of always will lose to Stall for a couple of reasons. First of all, Stall has Blissey plus Clodsire, and Psy Spam is a playstyle that consists mostly of special attackers with the occasional Spin, Great Tusk, or King Gambit. And you know, Shadow Ball runs Blissey. Blissey runs Shadow Ball this generation, so it's able to hit Poltegeist. Although it can still maneuver through Blissey with Terra and with double Shell Smash, right? But it will never sweep. And once you lose your most important special attackers, there's no chance you win the game. And not to mention, Clodsire can freely use their Psychic against Psy Spam, and all Pokemon it has, except for Great Tusk and Volcarona. And adding Volcarona is a recommendation I have if you want to still use Psy Spam and beat Stall, because Volcarona's Bug Buzz is actually really threatening to Clodsire's Terra Psychic or Terra Dark, which are the options it has against those teams. So yeah, adding a Bug Buzz Volcarona is my recommendation. Next up, we have Rain. Rain is a playstyle you run a lot, right?
But my Rains are bad against Stall.
Yeah, Rains are bad against Stall for a couple of reasons. First of all, Stall has a lot of water resist. You have Pex, Alomomola, Dondozo, so naturally Rain would have a hard matchup. Floatzel is never going to break through. And what I recommend doing if you're on the Rain is adding a Nasty Plot Golduck. That's actually a really threatening mon to Stall. And the only thing Stall can do is actually terrestrialize Clodsire. And even then, if you're Life Orb in Rain, I'm pretty sure you can like to hit KO it with a Hydro Pump or something like that, or even Terra Water. And Nasty Plot versions can beat Blissey, although they will take a bit of chip. And another change I would recommend to your teams, if you don't already have this utility option, is to add knockoff on Pelipper. Because it's pretty easy to get up hazards against Stall with Rain, especially if you have Toadscrew, since it beats Hatterene and Talonflame and even Cyclizar with Spore. So it will get up hazards pretty easily. And so running knockoff on Pelipper will allow you to remove boosts and apply the hazard pressure correctly. Those are the two main changes I would make on those types of teams if you want to still use them and be able to beat Stall. So now let's move on to the teams that actually have a good matchup. And let's start with Sun. Sun is always known for being strong against, has always been known for being strong against Stall. I think I put the wrong ability on Hatterene, but you can fix it to Magic Bounce. And that's because of a few reasons. First of all, is the exponential damage output. Unfortunately, that doesn't work necessarily this generation, but because there are a lot of fire resists on Stall, and because Blissey now runs Terra Water, both for the Rain and Sun nukes like Walking Wake. So Walking Wake won't be able to... In fact, Blissey is probably the best Walking Wake cancer in the game right now. Mm-hmm. So Walking Wake isn't necessarily the path you want to take at beating Stall. The most threatening Pokemon you can have is actually Brute Bonnet, and for a couple of reasons. First of all, Stall lacks good grass resistances, and Loaded Dice Photosynthesis boosted Bullet Seed is just incredibly strong in Sun. The only notable resistances it has is Volcarona and Talonflame, and for those you can simply run Terra Fire Crunch, which is what it already runs. And now there's a flaw with Brute Bonnet, and that is that it can be hazard pressured. But since Hatterene and Great Tusk can so easily fit on Sun, because Hatterene enjoys Mystical Fire Boost and you want to be able to be immune to hazards, since you run a lot of fire types on Sun teams. And Great Tusk fits naturally because of Photosynthesis Boost, and it's always a good spinner. It's everywhere, right? Yeah. So you'll be able to farm the anti-hazard core here, which is really effective, and with playing as the Stall player, you will need a lot of turns to successfully get Stealth Rock up forever. So this will give you time to use Brute Bonnet and break through Stall with Terra Fire. You can run Crunch if you want to break through a little bit faster, although Sucker Punch is also a common option.
Yeah, also for not too common, but I'm guessing La Typhlosion with Specs Eruption forces your Terra 100%, right? On Blissey.
Yeah, it forces the Terra on Blissey, and then you can exploit that with something else like Choice Banded Roaring Moon, right? Spamming out Raging Sun, because you don't have a Dragon Resist. There are some cores you can form to beat Stall this way, although both Typhlosion and Roaring Moon, I'm not sure they are like the most common or strongest Sun Pokemon. So it's a path you can take, but I would still say that this path is more consistent, although that part that what you just suggested would perfectly work, and it's perfectly fine. Okay. What is not perfectly fine, however, I think it's electric terrain teams, because those are kind of matchup fishy, and they have a really, really good matchup against Stall. They have two big threats, which are Iron Hands and Iron Leaves, and as long as you don't let them get toxic, you should be able to win the game with some doubles. Let's start with Iron Hands. Iron Hands is obviously an electric type that beats Clodsire. So as there are a lot of water type Pokemon on Stall, you will need Terra to beat it. Dondozo can sometimes use Terra to wall Iron Hands, but when you have Pinch in support, you cannot rest, and Iron Hands still does a lot of damage, so it will win in the end. And Iron Leaf is also a really threatening Pokemon, because Stall also lacks a lot of psychic resistances and immunities. And for example, one of the few psychic immunities it has is Tinglu, which is destroyed by Leaf Blade. Pex is destroyed by Psyblade. Alomomola is destroyed by Leaf Blade. Same thing with Dondozo. So, like most grass types, it's extremely threatening. It also outspeeds. It doesn't outspeed Talonflame, but it outspeeds the most common Talonflame spread on Stall, which is like 334 speed for Garchomp. So it's a little bit faster, but if you get burnt, you will lose. So Terra Fire is also a very popular option, which covers steel types and guarantees that you won't get burnt. Finally, we'll move on to Slowking Balance. And this is actually a really consistent playstyle in the meta. I enjoy it a lot right now.
Oh.
But in order to beat stall, you can simply run Slow King. You have to run a pair, a good pair, of course. And Meowscarada is an ideal pair. It naturally pairs well with Slow King because not only is it a physical attacker, but it also forces out Garganacle, and it's especially good against stall because it has knockoff. And obviously, you can also run Great Tusk to knock off Alomomola, and with future side teams, Slow King teams, which are basically the same. Your goal is to wear down Alomomola as quickly as possible with some strategy. So basically, if Alomomola tries to absorb Meowscarada's knockoff, and it uses Terra Flying to be able to do that. The problem is if they Terra Flying, Surf will actually be able to wear Alomomola down, and they will not be able to respond to Future Sight permanently with Wish Protect. So we'll be able to get Future Sights off and start applying pressure with your physical breakers. And that's basically it. Those are basically the best ways you can defeat stall in this generation. I will also, I think RGGV will also leave some of my RMTs in the description, so you can check individual weaknesses of these teams for yourself. And I think it would be a good idea if now we play the game and he tried to beat my stall.
Yeah, sounds good. And of course, I'll leave the RMTs below for the most prominent stalls you'll see. In the RMTs, well, you cover their weaknesses as well. Basically everything about the teams. And I'll also, everyone, if you want to join just a stall server, well, of course, naturally, most of what you do there is push
Learn
stall
about
meta.
stall.
Yeah, learn about
Yeah.
how to make stall
But
better.
you can also learn about its weaknesses there.
Correct.
So it's always a win-win for you.
yeah. No, for me, I mean, I've come into it and I've gotten some good information from it.
Yeah, I think we could play a game now.
Yeah.
If you want.
Yeah. Send me the match on RGV.
Okay. RGV. Let me see. Okay, I think I'll bring the most common team right now, which is probably still the Talonflame one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring that one.
Okay. Yeah. I have a sort of a BO. By any chance, a slow king? Oh, let me go ahead and get the music off. Sorry, everyone.
So as you can see, RGV has a lot of anti-stall options. First of all, he has the double regenerator core, so it should be hard for me to break it down. And he also has rapid spin Great Tusk. I'm not sure what the Terra is. And he has some threats like Gallade, which is a kind of uncommon. But let's see how this match goes.
Let's go ahead then.
Okay.
I'm guessing you go straight up to Alomomola because you want to have a way to protect for the future side.
Yeah. Also, Alomomola is a great lead with stall because if there's some Pokemon that can be threatening against you, and just because you don't know their set, it's always good to scout information with protect. Although in this case, I can't really waste turns.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see here.
Okay.
Here, what I guess what I have to be the most scared of is getting burned by Talonflame.
I think I should sack something. Yeah, I'll sack Clothes there. I think it's kind of useless here. It's only for Valiant. Okay.
Yep. And right now, yeah, you lost some on, but I think you're in a better off position here because I'm one move from losing my strongest breaker.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can't heal it either. So yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. Oh, Trick is kind of annoying. Okay. Yeah, Trick is also a really good option you have against Tal that I didn't cover. But it works mostly when you have hazard spam. Otherwise, it don't really do much. If you need a recovery on Olomomola, you can also try to exploit the Wish Protect, because Future Sight has exactly as much PP as Wish and Protect have. So you can force Olomomola to kind of run out of recovery, although that will only benefit you in some matchups. For example, here it wouldn't do much, because Great Tusk, you don't need to heal against Great Tusk because it does so little damage. You just attack it back and regenerate the damage you take.
Yeah.
Although against some other teams, it can be more threatening when you actually have to spam Wish with Olomomola against other Pokemon. And basically, my game plan right now is to force Slowking to run out of Chilly Reception, so I can actually break it down with Whirlpool.
With the
same
Whirlpool?
thing with and same thing with the Mungus.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, at least for me right now, I think my best option is not to let you heal Dondoso, because I think that
because you can win with King Gambit for sure if you keep it low, especially if you're Terra Fire and avoid Talon Flames burn.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I misplayed. It's fine. Yeah, so I'll be able to eventually get up rocks now because, like I said, every form of hazard removal you have against Tal is kind of flawed. For example, Great Tusk will mostly lose when it gets toxic, right? Or even if I didn't get it toxic, I could use Talon Flame to remove to punish it with the burn. Let's see here. Sources. Let me calculate this actually. Not sure you kill. Probably do.
I don't think it does. Not without a terror. I don't know. Galaxy is extremely strong. I'm not really sure.
It's a roll, I think. Yeah, but it's in your favor, I think. Not sure what I want to do here.
Not sure. I'm thinking this is the best option to sack Gallic, because at the end it's always gonna be a play where I need to Sword Sense somehow.
Yeah, it's the play that gets you the most value out of it.
thought about it.
Yeah, because I couldn't risk a Momola there. There's a good chance that either Talon... If I lose Pex, it's kind of fine, because there's still a good chance that either Talonflame or Blissey will wall this particular Valiant set. So that's why I did that. Pex is the most useless, and yeah, as I said, Alomomola had a way to die to Sacred Sword.
Yeah, I actually thought about doing another SD.
Yeah, that could be a good play too, because I could either protect or go Pex.
Yeah, I actually thought you were gonna go for a Witch just to make sure that you could heal up after the hit. But I guess it would have been a misplay.
Because even if you attack me, right, and I live, I guess if I protect or just attack you, I guess Greatus comes in and clicks knockoff, right, and kills one.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, so you do have CC. Okay. You have T-Bolt though.
I don't. Same.
Okay, so I'm not sure if I want to scout. I mean, if you have T-Bolt, I kind of lack counterplay anyway. Okay, Moonblast. Okay. So basically misplayed, and I'm actually one wish down compared to Future Sight, so he may be able to take advantage of that. Oh wow. Yeah, that's actually really annoying, because I'm pretty sure Talonflame dies to Future Sight plus Ketao. What do I want to do about this?
Yeah. But the only thing that scares me of bringing out King Gambit is actually don't do so.
You do like 50 to Talonflame, right? Let me count. Yeah, I think you kill with Future Sight support. Yep. Okay, so I'm kind of forced to sack Talon here. I mean, if you were gonna Terra Fire, then I think it really didn't matter, right?
Yeah. I just didn't want to risk, because the moment if this got burned, that was basically game, I guess. Other than extending this a lot with the...
Okay, so now I lose Talonflame, but I get to rest, so I can wall this, I think, permanently. I'm just not sure if I should spend Terra here. I don't think I want to. Oh, a crit. Oh well. I should have. Yeah, and I think that's GG.
Yeah, there. I guess at this point it's hard that you can wall everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah, crit. I was considering to use Terra Dark, and I would have lived even with the crit, but I wanted to save Terra for Pex too, in case Valiant had a coverage move. And yeah, this way I think I'm gonna lose. Just gonna get a Prox and get some initiative. But I'm gonna die anyways. Yeah, so I think I'll just forfeit. Yeah, I think I lost this game. Looks pretty hopeless position. So yeah. As you can see, RggV implemented some of the tactics you can use against Tal. He had the double regenerator, safety net, he had Future Sight support, he had knockoff to remove the boots and items, and of course he had, and his team didn't look, too different from a standard team, other than the Gallade, which is kind of rare.
Yeah.
And they actually put a lot of work against us. But it's still a fine option, and you could get away with this team on high ladder against like teams other than Stahl, and he actually ended up winning. So I think he learned a lot from this video, and I hope you did too.
Yeah, of course, and well, I've learned a lot from the Discord. All of you discussing how you think or how stall works. It's always because I've never played stall, but learning how you think as a stall player makes I guess I can guess or I can predict some plays or have a game plan against stall. I got lucky with the crit, but yeah, actually this team is pretty good on ladder. I think right now I'm like 1980s with it. Everyone, this is probably the next team I'm gonna record with as well. And of course, most of the from the nicknames, you'll see that most of the sets I'm running are from Maverick Shooters, a great builder. I just moved some other mons around with his sets.
Yeah, I think we basically covered everything we needed in this video. So I think we should end it here. It was a fun video.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Voltage, and hopefully all of you learned. And let me know if you enjoyed this kind of videos, which are more informative, more than a live. And of course, I'll do more of this if you do enjoy them. So hopefully you enjoyed, everyone. I'll see you next time. See ya.
See ya.